Hello, YouTube. This is Ewan Spence and ESC Insight calling to the tractors, to Croatia, to Liverpool. Yes, it's a good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome back to ESC Insight on YouTube, our continuing quest to cut up our podcast into single, isolated country reviews, slap a graphic on them, and put them up here on YouTube. Joining me in that podcast studio with no cameras whatsoever, hence this solution, AJ Clay and Alice Beverham Palmer, as we review the song from Croatia at this year's Eurovision Song Contest. The band is Let 3 and the song is Mama. Let 3, a band that I've written down are dangerous jobsy dub. They have that same sort of energy and presence and staging, but at the same time, you can't always trust them to be friendly and accessible. They very much like to push the shock part of shock rock.
Dangerous is a good word. One of the notes that I had down was David Hoyle, who is a cabaret artist, who, if you haven't seen, is you don't want to be in the front row because you never know what's going to happen. And a lot of the makeup in the video was very David Hoyle. It was kind of messy and OTT. Like last year with Serbia, you have something that is captivating in its weirdness, and my whole thing with Eurovision is the number one thing is that you need to be memorable, and it is memorable. And it also has a very serious message, and it's that kind of performance art vibe, and that got Serbia into the top 5 last year. However, I think there's a air of chaos which is very different to that Serbian song, and maybe their undoing, because even though there's a snatch of an earworm to it, it's not necessarily accessible in lots of other ways. So yeah, I really enjoyed the vibe, but I'm completely unsure how it's going to go across, but I look forward to finding out.
I mean, I love chaos on a Eurovision stage, but I think what Ewan was saying was right. I feel like they might pull a Hattery and do something really, like, we're not expecting something and suddenly everyone in Liverpool is panicking and trying to move cameras away from them. Because, I mean, I know the song's already been controversial because it's just basically criticising Putin. It is hooky, because when we first watched the national final, we were doing the whole Mama Kupi la Trattura, but the rest of the song is such a hot mess. Like, I can't remember any of it. There's maybe like a crazy frog going on, and then some drum kit falls down a staircase, and it's kind of... I mean, the staging's going to be bonkers, I'm sure, and it'll be really memorable for that reason. But if it does get through, is it going to even dent the top 10? Probably not. But it'll be fun, but yeah.
I think one of the things with the staging is you have to look at it next to the music video. And when you do that, you can see that, they're wearing the costumes from one part of the music video. But because video, you can do far more with it. You can play with backdrops. You can play with angles and different costumes and really just do a lot more movement and a lot more potential. You don't have that on stage unless you work really, really hard on tight camera angles, on props and thinking through. And we didn't see that in the national final. Now, you could say that's because the national final has to serve everybody equally. So you can't say, right, you get to do the really weird camera angles and rotating boards and stuff. We'll keep that for Liverpool. That is one option. The other option is they just don't know what to do on stage. They're just going to be a band. And if it's that, I think this song struggles because the hook is quite weak. The visuals will need to be the hook. And with the best will in the world, it's easier to remember Constractor's look than it will be to remember Let 3's look. I think there's just going to be too much shock and not enough rock. Miss.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I mean, I think once you get over your lad coming out with kind of sparklers coming out of some missiles, it's kind of... you forget most of the rest of the song, and it's just, miss for me, I think.
For me, I think you've hit on something that makes me a little bit sad about the modern era of Eurovision, which is that a lot of the Saturday night viewers miss a lot of the weird acts, which they actually love and appreciate because they don't make it out of the semis. And I think some years the final can be, for Eurovision, fairly anodyne and safe for that reason. And also for that reason, for me, it gets upgraded to a maybe, because that's one of the reasons that I love Eurovision, is that you get such interesting acts and songs and presentations. So I think it deserves its place. I don't think there's any guarantees it will make it out of the gate into the final, though.
Croatia's entry to Eurovision there. Comments are always welcome in all the usual social media places, i.e. just below here or at our homepage website. More from AJ Clay through Twitter at Uskibetha, it's the Scottish for whiskey. More from Alice Bevan Palmer, also on Twitter, slightly easier, at Alice. Myself, at Ewan as well. So there you go, whiskey, first name. And we'll have more from them later. But after Eurovision, they're not one of the 37 performers taken to the stage in Liverpool. We're reviewing them one by one here at YouTube. Go find us. Go find more songs. Go find more thoughts on another video. Ta-ra for now. You've been listening to the highlights of Jukebox Jury as we preview the Eurovision Song Contest 2023. Find out more and listen to our podcast, www.escinsight.com.